So, today we are looking into the setup process for your Bitaxe. Let's get started. Before we get started with setting up our Bitaxe device, make sure that you do take a look in the video description down below. In there you will find timestamps guiding you over to the correct time where I do explain how to set up your Bitaxe device on different devices, such as for the iPhone or on Android or even on your PC. For the PC example, I will use my Linux computer here that I do have here next to me, but the steps should be the same on Windows or on your Mac. So make sure that you do check them out, and let's start with setting it up. So the first thing that we actually do need is our Bitaxe device, and let me quickly explain to you something really important. On the PCB are all these components that you do need to just plug it in and let it run. But you will find on some PCBs that you do purchase from some merchants a stamp on the PCB, a logo, and this is called OSMU, this logo. What this mentions to you is that with your purchase, you've donated $5 over to OSMU, the community behind the Bitaxe project. And while we're talking about that, let me quickly give you a segue from our sponsor. Are you ready to dive into Bitcoin mining? Look no further than Solar Satoshi, your go-to destination for high-quality Bitaxe miners. With flexible payment options including fiat and Bitcoin, visit solarsatoshi.com today and power up your Bitcoin future. So now let's move over to the actual PCB and what you can find on here. So the big thing here in the middle, this is the fan obviously, and underneath is the heatsink, which actually cools down your ASIC chip, the chip that is producing these hashes to actually find a potential Bitcoin block. An important thing that you need to know, if you do purchase this on Solar Satoshi, this screen here on top is friction fitted. And this example that I do have here with me does have a solid on screen. So let me quickly get a second one here that I do have with me. And here we do have this friction fit screen. What this means, as you can see, I can detach or disassemble the actual screen and attach it back again. What you need to make sure is if you do receive your packaging from any of these merchants that you do decide to purchase a Bitaxe from, make sure if you do have something like this friction fit here, you will see there's this pin outlet, and this little screen does have pins on here. So what you want to make sure is before you actually power this device on, that you do plug it in there with a little bit of gentle force, not too much. Don't bend it or anything else. Just make sure that it sits in there really tight. So before we actually start with plugging this device in, let me mention to you that you need to have a Wi-Fi with 2.4 gigahertz. This device will not work with 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. This needs to be clarified here. All right, now let's plug this in and let's take a look what we will see. You will find this setup screen. It's saying to you connecting to SSID, my SSID, and then underneath it says configuration SSID Bitaxe_8C19. What this mentions to you actually is you need to connect to this Wi-Fi in order to set up this Bitaxe. And we are now hopping over to my iPhone and we're gonna set it up using the iPhone. And after that, we're gonna do the same with an Android, and then we're switching over to the PC. So make sure you select the correct timestamp for your device. All right, now we are over in our settings on the iPhone, and what we want to make sure to do is we want to make sure to go over to wireless, to the Wi-Fi connection, and here you do see there is the Bitaxe8C19. What we want to do is we want to go over there and connect to it. Just click on it, and after a second, what it should do, it should open up a captive portal for you automatically. So here you see it's loading up the Bitaxe Wi-Fi dashboard, and here we do get plenty of information, but we will dive into all this stuff later on the PC, and I will explain to you the whole XOS and what you can see on here in just a second. But what we want to make sure now is we want to go over to these 3 lines on the left, which opens up this menu, and then we want to click on settings. In here you will find Wi-Fi SSID, which is basically the name for your Wi-Fi network. And as I said previously, make sure that your Wi-Fi is 2.4 gigahertz. If you do have a 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, you probably will also have a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. You just need to make sure that you do not have disabled this. This device only works with 2.4 gigahertz. For the Wi-Fi SSID and the Wi-Fi password, it is really important that you do make sure you type the letters with upper or lower case in there correctly. Make sure that you do that, double check that before you actually do anything else. Let's quickly do that. I have put in my Wi-Fi SSID and the password. The next thing that you want to do is you want to change the Stratum user. Stratum user is where you actually put in your Bitcoin address. So you need to get a Bitcoin address. Lightning address does not work in here. You could either do this right now if you can copy and paste in your Bitcoin address right now into this. But if you leave this captive portal, it will not go up again. So what I do recommend to you is just put in your Wi-Fi SSID, so the name of your Wi-Fi and the password, and then click on Save. If you do that, it applies the settings to the Bitaxe, and this is really important. You do read it here. There's this note: you must restart this device after saving for changes to take effect. So what you want to do is scroll up a little bit, click on the 3 lines again, and click on Restart. And what it then will do, it will connect to your Wi-Fi, and I'm now thrown out of the captive portal, as you do see. And my Bitaxe next to me is currently starting to hash, and it is already mining. What you want to make sure is you take a close look on the screen of your Bitaxe, and after a while it will show you its actual IP address. So let me quickly go over to my web browser, and in here I do type in the IP address. In my case, this is 10.0.10.90. It could be different on your setup. It always depends on your Wi-Fi and how you have configured your Wi-Fi, but that's how it is on my end. So let me quickly open that, and here you do see now we do have this actually in our web browser opened. You see we already have 558 gigahashes. It takes a time to average out, but as I said, more on that later, or skip ahead to the PC section, because in there I will explain every single detail of XOS. So what we want to do now is we want to go back to the settings, and now you can paste in here your Bitcoin address. So we just delete that, and then you just put in here the Bitcoin address. You can also delete the Bitaxe, as I just did there a second ago. Just paste in here your Bitcoin address, then again click on Save and restart the device. It will automatically connect to public pool and start hashing over to public pool and try to find a block over there. Okay, now we are on a Huawei device, and what we want to do here on the Android telephone, it could be looking a little bit different on your device depending on the language that you select on your device or what kind of Android device you do have. But what you want to do is you want to go over to Wi-Fi connection, and in here you will find the Bitaxe 8C19. As you have seen, it could be different on your Bitaxe device, but always look at the screen what kind of configuration SSID it tells you to connect to. So let's quickly connect to it. So now we're connecting to it, and it should take a second until we are connected. And now on top we do see connect to this Wi-Fi network. Let's click on that, and what it will actually do, as you have seen, it will now get us over to a captive portal. It is sort of the same behavior that you do see in Wi-Fi's that you would connect while you're in a hotel or something like this. This is called a captive portal. What you want to make sure to do right now is, if you don't get this message as I have gotten here, like this notification, what you want to do is you want to hop over to your browser and you want to type in 192.168.4.1. This is actually the IP address where you want to connect to, and this would bring you over to the same web page as we are currently in here, and we're trying to set this Bitaxe up. So let's get started. On the top left we do see these 3 lines. We want to click on that, and this opens up this menu. What we want to do here is we want to click on Settings, and in Settings it should give us a couple of options. For the setup, we only will change the Wi-Fi SSID and the Wi-Fi password. And later on, while I'm doing everything on the PC, I will go into detail about everything on XOS. So what you want to do, make sure now, is you want to type in your Wi-Fi SSID and the password, and be aware you need to make sure that you do put it in there with the correct lower and upper cases. If you do have any mismatch, it will not connect. Also, I cannot mention it often enough, please make sure that you do have a 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi. If you do have a 5 GHz Wi-Fi, this device cannot connect to 5 GHz Wi-Fi, but usually your router should also give you 2.5 GHz Wi-Fi. If not, you need to make sure that you do check out your router and how to activate 2.4 GHz. I just need to make sure to clarify this. So you put in the Wi-Fi SSID, which is the name of your Wi-Fi. And then you need to put in the password. Also make sure that you do type really carefully your password in there. And then you could leave public pool for now. We will change this later on if you want to. And Stratum user, this is the important part. In here, this is the Bitcoin address. You need to make sure that you do have a valid on-chain Bitcoin address. It could be looking like this, what's currently in there. It could be different. What will not work is a Lightning address. You cannot put in a Lightning address. When you have done so, you could either now put in your Bitcoin address, or later, if you go out of this captive portal, there's not an easy way to get back into the captive portal other than clicking on your browser and typing in the IP address I told you earlier. But we will leave the Bitcoin address that's currently in there for now, and we will change this later on. What we want to make sure is we have our Wi-Fi SSID and the password correct, and then we scroll down and we click on save. What you do see here, this note next to save is really important. You must restart this device after saving for changes to take effect. So we click on save, it says saved success. All right, we scroll up a little bit, we click on the menu again, and we click on restart. And what it will do, it will restart the device automatically and it will connect to your Wi-Fi. And in my case, it's already connected to my Wi-Fi and it is starting to hash. It's just working. So now let's hop over to the PC and let's take a look how it looks on the PC. Now we are on the PC, and I do have a Linux PC, but these steps should be the same as if you would do them on your Windows or on your Mac. So what we want to make sure is we want to go to our Wi-Fi settings and we want to select a network. And in here, very shortly, there should be the Bitaxe 8C19. So click on connect. And as soon as you have done so, I do get the notification here on my Linux device. Let me do that. And it opens up this captive portal. This is basically the same as if you would get in a hotel Wi-Fi or somewhere else. If this does not work, and we will wait just a second if this works or not. It works, it just takes a second to load up. This is not an issue, this just works fine. We want to take a look on this. So this is the dashboard of XOS, of your Bitaxe device. What we want to make sure now, just for the setup, is we want to go over to settings, and in here you will change the Wi-Fi SSID. This is the name of your Wi-Fi, and make sure that you do apply the proper lower and upper cases, and then the same for the password. You can leave public pool in here for now, as well as the Stratum user. The Stratum user is your Bitcoin address, and be aware you need a valid on-chain Bitcoin address. A Lightning address will not work. For the sake of setting the device up, we will just keep it as is, and we will click on save. And you do notice this note next to save. You must restart this device after saving for changes to take effect. So what we want to make sure is we want to click on save. It said saved success. And now we want to restart. So Wi-Fi SSID, change the name of your Wi-Fi, and be aware you need to have a 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi. If you do have a 5 GHz Wi-Fi, your router will probably also have 2.4 GHz, but if you are not sure about that, make sure that you do check this out in your router, but I can't actually guide you through that. So we have changed the SSID and the password, and the rest we will leave for now. And we will click on restart. What it will actually do is it will restart the Bitaxe device with your changed settings, and then you should be able to take a look on the screen of your Bitaxe device and actually figure out the IP address that it now does have. And in my example, it will get the IP address locally here. So now we're going into the last section of this setup video. We will go over all the settings of XOS. Now we are on the PC and we want to take a look on all these settings of XOS. We want to see what we can actually see on our Bitaxe device. So the first thing that comes up to you here is the dashboard. And in here you do see the current hash rate, the shares that you've already sent, the efficiency, and your best difficulty so far. All these stats are usual stats that you do want to see if you are a Bitcoin miner, as well as your power, the input voltage, and a couple of measurements about the temperature, as well as the fan and the fan speed, as well as the frequency of the ASIC. This here is just informational stuff. What we actually want to do is we want to hop over to settings. What we can see in here is we have a host name. And depending on your router and your setup of your networking at home, this will actually work for you or not. What I'm trying to say here is if you do open up a new browser and if you just type in Bitaxe/, it should bring you over to the Bitaxe dashboard. As you do see, it works because my network is properly configured. It could be that it doesn't work on your network, but this is what hostname does. Wi-Fi SSID, as I said, you should have configured this already, as well as the Wi-Fi password. The Stratum URL is the pool that you are trying to connect. And there's this little information. Do not include Stratum plus TCP // or port, as you usually do get if you're trying to connect to any sort of pool. You will get a string with Stratum plus TCP // public-pool.io $.21496. This would be what the pool will actually give you. What you need to do is, for public pool as an example, which is a solo pool and which only will give you a reward if you find a block. If you don't find a block, you get nothing. You just need to put in public-pool.io in here, and the port goes in here into this Stratum port. The important thing is the Stratum user, and I mentioned this to you earlier, that you need to put in here a Bitcoin address, and it needs to be a on-chain address. You can't use anything else like a Lightning address. It doesn't work. There are some pools where you actually need to sign up and then do have a username, and in this case you would need to put in your username instead of a Bitcoin address. But this is different from pool to pool. This setup process here and explanation is specifically for public pool and trying to solo mine with your Bitaxe device. The Stratum password is just a password. You can put in whatever you want. There is no authorization with public pool. You can put in X, you can put in 1, whatever, it doesn't matter. One important thing maybe for you is the frequency and core voltage. What this is it sets the frequency for your ASIC chip. So the higher you go on the frequency, the more hash rate you should get, but there's a catch, it gets warmer. So you need more cooling. So it will probably get way louder than before. So if you just click on that, you will get this drop-down menu here where you can select the frequency, and usually the defaults are set in here. And also if, for example, you crank this frequency up to 550 and for whatever reason it doesn't work or the hash rate is really low, try to increase the core voltage as well a little bit. But beware, just do this slowly and don't overdo it. You could damage your device potentially. You don't want to do that. So that's just set on the core voltage and the frequency. Now a little bit more down, we do have 3 little buttons that we could potentially, or checkboxes that we could potentially click, which is flip screen, invert fan polarity, and automatic fan control. The first thing is the flip screen. What this does is basically if you mark or unmark it, depending on what you have done, it will actually rotate by 180 degrees your screen of your Bitaxe device. So if you do have this in another position or you want to have this upside down, you can uncheck this and then it will flip the screen of your Bitaxe device. The same goes with the invert fan polarity. This is to spin your fan the one way or the other one. And the last one is the automatic fan control. If I do uncheck this, you do see I get this fan speed here, which is a regulator, which you can drag and which you can click and drag to the proper fan speed that you want to have. Let's put it at 50% for now, because I'm just sitting at the usual frequency and core voltage. And All you need to do then is click on save and restart. And your Bitaxe device will automatically restart, and in this case now it flipped the screen over and the fan speed has been adjusted to 50%. If we do scroll down a little bit further, we do see there is this current version, and this shows you on which version you are actually on right now. If you are on a later version of XOS, this will not be shown here. To actually see what version you're on, you would need to go over to the logs page and then take a look over there. But from version 2.1.10 on, you do have this latest release check. If you just click on this button, it will actually show you what is the latest release. And then a little bit further down, you do get these two files that you can then download, which are basically binary files, which you can then use to update your Bitaxe device. And this is really handy and really easy. So you just click on the esp-miner.bin and it would open up a new tab really quickly and show you where you want to store this potentially. And let's not do that right now. And then you just save it. And the next step for you to update your Bitaxe device would actually be the section right next to it, which says update firmware. And it's really important, it stays here esp-miner.bin, so you need to browse for this file, esp-miner.bin, and XOS will only take esp-miner.bin. If your file is named any different, it will actually not work. The same goes along with the www.bin file to update the overview or this web UI that you do see here right now where we're connected to. So this is really important here if you want to update your device to the latest version. All right, now you should actually be up and running and you have actually installed and configured your Bitaxe device successfully. Mine is hashing right along and I do hope yours is as well. Thanks for watching. See you next time.